Hey, what's going on, guys? This is Matt Sassano live from Gotham City. I wanted to give a special shout out to Testimonies with Terry podcast. We just did an awesome interview not too long ago, and after the show, some listeners wrote in with some personal questions to me that I will be responding to right now, so stay tuned. As a pastor's son, I've kind of seen the good, the bad, and the ugly of ministry life. And in my own specific personal case, um, there was a lot of hiddenness. There was a lot of things that were swept under the rug. And there's a point where some people, you're never going to change them. But there's a lot of also well-meaning pastors that have struggles, that have things that they're dealing with, and pastors' family issues. Oftentimes, as a pastor or a pastor's family, we get put on pedestals. People see us in a particular light, and it leaves us in a vulnerable position where we can't go anywhere with our problems. And so I don't think that we should take a soft stance on accountability, but I also wish that there was a place where well-meaning pastors with moral failings or addictions or vices that they have no place to go with, no place to go, can seek help and seek accountability in a way that's not going to tear them from their position. Oftentimes we throw the baby out with the bathwater, and I've seen so many well-meaning pastors go with an addiction or with a moral failing that they just want to get out of the way and sincerely get out of the way, and instead they're kind of shoved out the back door. So I think the best way to support the pastor's family in my perfect utopia is to provide a place where we encourage an accountable life, but that we give pastors a place to really discuss their issues and get things off their chest. Sadly, to this day, right now, I don't have a really great relationship with my father. Early on, when divorce hit and all the dysfunction hit my family, we would somewhat try to keep in contact on, social media. We'd be casual Facebook friends and social media friends and whatnot, and kind of I'd get in this cycle where I would get like birthday texts or Christmas texts or when holidays rolled around. But it was never about deep conversation, because in a situation where there was abuse, in my case, it's just hard to confront real issues. So it got to a point where I had to kind of reason within myself that I've done everything that I can do to maintain a relationship, and that it was just time to let go and let God. And oftentimes, with the social media relationship with my father that I had, I'd be on an interview and tell the truth about what had gone on, and then I'd go on Facebook and find that he defriended me. So it got to a point where I felt like I was trying to uphold something superficial, and had to finally surrender and just say, if it's God's will that this relationship be mended, then it'll happen. And I have a song on my new EP, In Defiance, called Sorry is a Dirty Word, that's just about that very thing, about letting go and letting God, when sorry is the one thing that a person won't say. And so that's kind of what our relationship looks like. We've kind of just agreed to disagree. We've remained kind of estranged, but at the same time, if he came to me and honestly wanted to make things right, I would take that step, but so far that's yet to be seen. So 2020, the year 2020, what can we say? Bad year, pandemic hit. For me personally, my first major tour that I was supposed to go on collapsed, and I think it's an understatement just to say that I felt devastated. And when you're in that low spot, when you're not feeling good about yourself and the direction of your life, you feel like you've lost your purpose, it's easy to slip into toxic relationships, and that's exactly what I did with somebody that I met on Facebook, and invested way too much time and energy into this person that I couldn't verify, exactly who she was. We dated for about 4 months. She moved closer to me, and about the time she moved closer, there was just a lot of dysfunction in the relationship, endless arguments that would take place daily, a lot of belittlement of me, a lot of just manipulative things that went on. And as I look back in that relationship, I think I got into it in the wrong time. It's easy when you're not feeling like you're, at your most productive or at your best, to slip into relationships where you settle for less because you just don't feel secure in yourself. And one thing that I would say, if you're considering getting into a relationship, be sure to come in with a position of strength. Don't let your insecurities subject you to a lot of mistreatment and stuff like that. And always make sure that you're putting your goals and your aspirations first. Don't compromise who you are for somebody else. Don't dilute yourself for somebody else. And I think in hindsight, if I was in a better frame of mind at the time, I would have probably avoided that trap. And that's a lesson learned. So what I learned from that relationship is that you really want to base your goals the same. You want to have the same spiritual background, and there's a lot of things that go into a relationship that if you're not compatible with, you really want to do the deep dive and figure out where somebody's coming from before you just dive headfirst into something, just off the cuff. I think that when I broke up with the fiance and everything went that way, that was the first time that I actually sat down and said, what did I do to contribute to this relationship? How did I get myself in that mess? And I learned a lot about narcissism and, difficult personality disorders. There was a lot of videos and resources on YouTube. Shout out to like Dr. Romney on YouTube. And also there's another channel called Common Ego that talks a lot about narcissism. So I think after, the aftermath of that, it was a really important step for me just to kind of sit down and learn what I had just gone through. And I think, like I said, for anybody that's going through relationships or wanting to know what's right for them, always put your spiritual goals first. Always align your goals the same, or at least have somebody that's in support of you during that time instead of being a ball and chain. So not a lot of people know that because of my disabilities, I struggle with cerebral palsy, and I have another disability called dyscalculia that I can't drive. I can't get around on my own, so I'm fairly dependent on family and people to help me on, with tour responsibilities and stuff like that. One of the stories that I remember about facing backlash because of my disabilities was, it was my first tour with 7 Day Slumber, and we were at this particular place. I don't remember where it was, but while I was on the stage in the middle of the show, I had not seen these people, but there were people supposedly laughing and kind of poking fun at me or whatever during the performance. And I remember Blaze, the drummer from 7 Day Slumber, how the story is told is he went and got Joe, the singer from 7 Day Slumber, and Joe came out and said, "Yo, you guys better chill, man." I didn't know anything was going on during this particular time, and frankly, I've developed tough skin, so it probably wouldn't have really bothered me. But they were really, defensive of me and everything, and told everybody just to back off of me and everything. And from what I'm told, the same people that were making fun of me and all this kind of stuff, as I got on stage, I told my story at the end of the show and kind of talked about what I had been through. And rumor has it that they were all in tears by the end of the show, and they told everybody that they were sorry. So it's just crazy to see how music and your story can play into, giving people perspective after they had made judgments about me and they didn't know me, and then they dug a little deeper as they saw the show and it changed their perspective. So there's a lot of areas in which I think that there's limitations that I've overcome day by day, but that's just one story of how I faced backlash over my disabilities.